Hello, it's good to see everybody again. I'm glad to be back. I wanted to thank you all for your comments and for your likes and for your shares, and I appreciate your subscriptions. And I also want to thank you all for the donations because that keeps us going. We're both working really hard at other jobs to keep all this going, but it's really important for us to get you to understand some of the methods that are used here so that you can begin to see health and taking care of yourself in a little bit different light. So today I decided that I would show you something a little bit different. I had a comment that came in on one of the more recent videos that was asking if I could show anything that had to do with disc problems, like slip discs or discs that aren't in alignment, different things like that. It oftentimes goes along with sciatica. And I wanted to tell you that I can show you something for the disc, but I wanted to tell you the story of how I found out that this works. I had a phone call one morning, and I answered the phone, and it was somebody asking if I could help with sciatic pain. Well, of course, that's an easy one to pull out for the most part. Most people who have sciatic pain and they come in to see me, we can get through that in 2 or 3 or 4 less treatments. So it's pretty easy to do. And I said, yeah, I can do that. And so he said, well, the problem is I'm in India, and immediately I thought that, well, that's not a good thing to travel that far. So I said, I really don't think you should travel like that with that kind of condition because it's not going to be good. The distance is too far, you'd be sitting too long, and et cetera, et cetera. So he said, well, would you be willing to come here? And out of the sky blue, I just said yes. All my friends got really mad at me for saying yes because they were all into their mode of fear. But for some reason, I felt it in my heart that that's where I needed to go and just do. So I got everything together and went over there, and I met them after a long plane ride and a long drive to Punjab, Ludhiana. I don't think I pronounced that right, in Punjab. I met the person that was afflicted with this back pain. And then I come to find out that not only was it just sciatic pain, but it was also disc issues. And they had told their friends that I was coming, and they were very serious. One guy even came to me on a gurney. So I was standing there like going, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I don't know about the discs, because again, we are taught the technique. And I've been doing this for so many years that I've been able to, integrate the structure and what it should be doing with what I'm feeling and getting it out that way. So happy ending, of course it was, because they all got better. Even the most serious cases were better. I saw people coming in with canes and they were back on their scooters. The guy that I originally came to see, he was back just doing things like normal. You never would have known that he dragged his leg coming in. And the fellow that came to me on the gurney, I went there, actually they brought me back 3 times, but this next time I was back, he was in his store lifting things and twisting, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. They're so happy because they had their life back. So anyway, long story short, I had a request on the recent video, like I had mentioned, about showing anything with disc issues. So I'm going to share with you with this skeleton, and the reason I'm going to use the spine is because it's hard to see on people, and I can do a follow-up with somebody, but it's harder to see, so I thought I would give you the technique and the things that I do and how my head was working to figure this out, because that was something that really confronted me when I got there. I realized that maybe I didn't have the skill level to do anything like that. They paid me to go there. I didn't want to disrupt anything. I wanted to have things work out. So I had to just get guided by my inner self and said a few prayers and just jumped right into the work. So what I did is I started with the 10-step and the 10-step protocol, which was the beginning thing. The 10-step protocol, I primarily wanted to work with getting the sphenoid back onto the fulcrum, the red and blue bone right there onto the fulcrum, because that's always out when you have low back problems. So I did the full 10-step. I had a couple of hours. I worked a couple hours on these people because this sphenoid bone and the occiput, is off in some direction when there's back trouble. So I got that in alignment, and then I went down to the sacrum, and I thought, okay, what has to happen? What has to happen? And I want to explain this out because there might be some people in certain modalities that won't like this because I haven't gone through the Rockefeller School and gotten the piece of paper that said I'm allowed to do this. So, but I'm doing it anyway. And so I figured, well, to get to the discs, which are in between the vertebrae, I needed to give space for that. So it needed to be, decompressed in some way, because a disc, here's a little picture of it. I don't know if you can see it very well, but this little red spot there, that's like when the disc starts to kind of come out of position. So because of this, I remembered that this has to go back in. So what I did is that when I got to the sacral pole, is I got underneath the sacrum in the normal sacral pole position, and I just held this position for probably 45 minutes. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with this yet, but I'm going to just give you the kind of the mechanics of it all. So I got myself positioned into this with the fingers in the right place, and I rested my elbow on the table and held myself in that position for the sacral pole. I would also bring my fingers to the vertebrae and see if I could feel space coming between the vertebrae. And all I did for like 40, 45, 50 minutes was traction, just traction, very, very lightly, traction the sacrum. So I'm just holding that self and tractioning it very, 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 very lightly, not with any force, just very lightly. And what happened is the sacrum was wiggling every which way. Sometimes I would put my hand up higher on the spine and go between the spine, and then when I did that, I was giving this feeling of pulling this way and this way. But it was very, very, very slight, just letting it go, letting the fascial structures, letting everything let go at their timing, at their own timing when they wanted to let go, and work it that way. And pretty soon I could feel a lot of change happening. And I would, after 45 minutes or so, 40 minutes, whatever it was, I would come out and check the hips, and then check the sphenobasilar junction, this little one I showed you earlier, where the sphenoid bone there, to make sure that that was coming on point. And the way that you can tell that is there's an even flexion and extension in the sphenoid bone. And so that felt pretty good for the first time. It wasn't completely right, but it was in a different position. And so I watched people get up, and I watched them move around a little bit, and I noticed they said that they feel different. And then I had worked them every day because I was so far away, and I knew that they couldn't follow up like the normal follow-ups are. But the other thing that I did give to them was this wedge to sit on, and I've mentioned this before. And what they did is, when they didn't see me like that evening, and I also left it with them, so they're probably still doing it to this day. But the wedge will help to stabilize this, and that's where you just lay on it like so, and it really does make a difference. So they would do that when they would feel a little bit of pain coming in, to maintain the change in that spine, in that alignment, in that positioning of the sacrum. Now the outcome of that, I'm going to tell you what happened with the guy with the gurney, because he was the most surprising for me, and I really felt insignificant and just out of my capacity to do anything when in comes a gurney. I was like, okay. I had gone to his house because they asked me to go there, but I didn't realize how bad he was. He was 2 months flat on his back, couldn't even sit up. His wife had to help him with bedpans and stuff. Couldn't hardly move at all. It was really a very serious situation. He had 3 discs that were out to my knowledge, it was 3 discs and a very crooked sacrum. After I finished him with 2 hours the first time, I asked him if he felt like he could sit up. He sat up. He not only sat up, he scooted off the table and stood up. And I thought, okay, that's really good, but let's go back on the table. We don't want to move into this too fast because he's been laying on his back for a long time. But he wanted to see if he could walk. He walked 8 steps after a 2-hour treatment, about 40-45 minutes on the sacrum, lengthening that, helping to put those discs back in place. So the second time, I went over to his house again because he still didn't feel good enough to be able to travel. And I worked another 2 hours on him. When I was finished this time, he got up and he walked to the door, and he opened the door and he said, I want to walk out there. And so he walked out. It was very slow, and he was still in a fair amount of pain, but he was moving. And he has a staircase in his house. And he said, I want to see if I can go up the steps. He went up 8 steps, turned around and came down. On the second day, that was 4 hours of this session, with me spending a heck of a lot of time hunched over, tractioning that sacrum and making sure that the positioning of the fulcrum as well as the sacrum was in alignment. When he went through that bedroom door into the other room, his family was sitting there and their jaws just dropped to the floor. They looked like somebody had punched them in the stomach because they were so shocked to see him walking, because they had been through so much in that 2 months. Well, the third day, they had scheduled me other people to see, and there was no way I could get over to his house. So he got in the car and he was actually able to ride over to the treatment. I was there, I think, 6 weeks, and he was able to, he was really in good shape. He went back to work before I left. I left him one of these and he got on it, and was really, his life had totally transformed. Now, the reason that they wanted me to go to India is because people there don't want surgery. And the main person, Ayush, who I was first working on, he did not want to do surgery, and he had contacted places all over the world, and everywhere they mentioned surgery. But he didn't want surgery, so he found me online and he wanted this to happen. To be honest with you guys, I really didn't think I had it in me. I didn't think this work was going to do it quite like that, because I'd never addressed discs in that severity before, but it does work. And so it's just a simple method of traction. The therapist, however, is going to have to be extremely patient to be able to hold that position for that long. It's not easy to do at all. It's very hard on the body. And I can tell a lot of wear and tear on my body because of doing this kind of work for so long. But needless to say, it was all about, this whole thing, to get this straightened out, was about me allowing the body through 5-gram techniques to these bones to be able to realign to where they needed to be so that the rhythm was well. The fulcrum of the body, right there at the blue and the red bone, the fulcrum of the body to be balanced, be where it should be, and feeling the rhythm that's even. The rhythm is happening even, instead of one side being off and one side being stuck and one side doing twitches and all kinds of things. And then spending time at the sacrum, decompressing that, tractioning that sacrum, and also tractioning a little bit at the occipital base. And it can be done. So my hope is that people understand that this is really easy. Health doesn't have to be as hard as they're saying. We can do a lot of things with alignment. We can do a lot of things if we're in a different space for healing, if we want to heal, because those people really wanted to heal. They knew that surgery was not going to be an option for them, but they didn't know how to heal. They're healing, their lives got back to order. We don't have to go through a lot of medications, taking high toxic things in our body to try to heal, because that breaks us down. We need to be whole. We need to have a good functioning immune system. We need to have a good functioning digestive system. We need to have a good gut health. We need to have a clean, nice, good liver. lungs that can breathe well. And that can all be possible if we're not making toxic choices in our life. And then the body work that's done on a person who's been taking care of themselves is going to align and respond much quicker than somebody who has got a lot of toxins going, because the body isn't speaking to itself and talking. Cells aren't functioning. They're not talking, helping, and doing that kind of thing. So you need to have that communication, cell to cell, organ to organ, tissue to tissue. And then just get in there, and when you have a therapist that's going to be intuitive enough to be able to feel what's happening, be able to help the body. All I did was help the body move where it had to move. By every time it would make a little shift in its movement, I would put a 5-gram pressure behind it, and it would help it to move and find its way back to normal, because the body wants to be whole. And that's the story. It's worked. Many people came to me during that time. It was such a blessing to be there and to see that culture. I absolutely love the Indian people. I just do. I really love that family, and I still miss them, and I still think about them a lot. So anyway, I hope this gave you a little bit of an idea of something that can be done. If you are a therapist, if you're doing cranial work right now, give that a try. But you have to remember, you have to stay soft and you have to stay in respect of the body. You can't take over with your intellect. You have to keep it in your heart, and you have to keep working so what the body tells you, you follow that. That's honoring the person on the table, and you're just there to help the process. You're not fixing them, you're just helping their body to fix the process. So, it's really easy. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad I was able to share this with you. I'm gonna keep on making these videos, and I hope you keep on enjoying the things I have to share with you. And I hope all of you to have good health and be happy, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. And I think there's a little bell up there that you can hit that you'll get a notification every time we post. So if you want to, you can hit that too. But thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.